What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the Werkd Kitchen. We're here again bringing you another healthy, low-calorie, high-protein recipe. Like always, today on the docket we have a pumpkin turkey protein pasta. It's gonna be delicious, it's gonna be super simple. These are all the ingredients you need to do it right here. Probably a 20-minute recipe. Okay, so the macros on this thing. We got 458 calories per serving. We're gonna be making 4 servings today. The breakdown on those calories are gonna be 40 grams of protein, 16 grams of fat, and 45 grams of carbohydrates. This is a really well balanced meal. It's gonna be tasty, it's gonna leave you satisfied, nice protein content, nice amount of fat and carbohydrates, nothing too crazy there, and you're coming in at under 500 calories. So if you're a larger person and you can have a little bit more calories, you can of course have 2 servings or 1.5 servings, and it's a great dinner, especially with the fall season now. I was laying in all weekend watching Halloween movies and I was really getting that fall vibe. I wanted a little pumpkin tasting meal with a little rosemary, keep it lower calorie with some turkey, and we'll switch out some other ingredients here to make it a little healthier than it otherwise would be in the standard recipe. The breakdown of ingredients in this recipe, super simple. Our base is gonna be this Banza chickpea pasta. If you haven't had this yet, I have another recipe. That's my protein mac and cheese recipe that we use this in, and I've been hooked ever since. Really high protein, really tasty. You would not know the difference between this and regular pasta, especially when you put all the delicious sauces on it, like in the mac and cheese, or today we're gonna make a nice pumpkin sauce for it. Our second ingredient is, as you may have guessed, pumpkin. So we have a canned 100% pure pumpkin, not a lot of sugar in it, not a lot of calories. That's gonna be the base for our sauce. Then we have our ground turkey. This is Butterball 93.7 ground turkey. Nice and lean meat. Then we have evaporated non-fat condensed milk. This is gonna be our cream replacement in our sauce instead of half and half. A great alternative, a little bit better than using like an almond milk or regular milk. A little less calories, a little thicker consistency, not to be confused with condensed milk, which has a ton of sugar, and use it in baking cookies and stuff. Then we have 2 large diced garlics that'll balance out the meal a little bit from the little bit of sweetness from the pumpkin. And we're gonna touch it off with some Parmesan cheese, which actually is very strong, but not a ton of calories if you don't go overboard and putting too much of that in. And then just in general here, we have some regular spices, so pepper, salt, and some rosemary to get a little extra flavor into our pumpkin sauce. That's it, guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 ingredients that we can put together an under 500 calorie, delicious, high protein meal. I'm gonna take you guys through the cooking process in 3 simple steps. First up, we're gonna get the water boiling for our chickpea pasta. And while that's boiling and cooking, we're gonna be cooking up our turkey with just some salt, pepper. And after that, then we're gonna remove the turkey from the pan and start making our pumpkin sauce in that same pan to minimize cleanup by only using 2 pots and use whatever leftover oil we used when cooking the turkey to save on calories. Let's jump into it and I'll take you through step 1 and 2. All right, so we got our water boiling here, getting ready to toss in our chickpea pasta. You of course always wanna salt your water. A little bit, give it a nice salting. Let that come to a boil, and while it's coming to a boil, we're gonna start cooking up our turkey. We're gonna use a half a teaspoon of extra virgin olive oil just to get some type of lubrication going on in there. If you feel like you need a little extra oil, you can always throw in a little bit of cooking spray, calorie-free, which I may do, just to get a little bit more. Again, we're trying to save on as many calories as possible, and the more oil you add to the recipe, it does add flavor, but also calories and fat at the same time. So we're trying to cook with as little as possible. We're gonna let that heat up, and then we're gonna toss the turkey in. And let it spread around the pan a bit. All right, with the heat on medium high and our oil now warmed up, we're gonna dump in our turkey. Come on, baby, get out of that bag. There we go. Might have turkey on the walls after this. I'm gonna add a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper to the turkey too, because you have to remember, none of this stuff is seasoned. The pumpkin doesn't have any seasoning, the turkey doesn't have any seasoning. So if you don't want your food to turn out really bland, you should always season every little piece a little bit, and of course, always taste test near the end. We're gonna spread this around a little bit so it cooks evenly. With ground turkey, you want to basically cook it until you don't see any more pink. Turkey has to cook to 165 degrees to be safe. It's a bit hard to use a thermometer on ground turkey though. Eventually it'll break up into little pieces and you'll really be able to tell when it's finished. I'll show you guys what that looks like in a minute. While the turkey's still cooking, our water's now boiling. We're gonna dump in our chickpea pasta. We're gonna use the whole box. And we're gonna let it cook for 9 to 11 minutes, depending on how firm or soft you like it. I'm gonna set a clock for 9 minutes just to check on it at 9. So turkey is all done. I'm gonna take it out of the pan and dump it into a bowl and set it aside until later. We're gonna reintroduce all these ingredients later on together into one mix and let them all kind of combine into one tasty meal. Now it's time to put together the pumpkin sauce. We're gonna use another half teaspoon of olive oil. Let that get hot again. And we're gonna start with rosemary in the pan to crisp up and kind of infuse the pumpkin with a nice rosemary flavor. And we're gonna do a tablespoon of rosemary here. Just dump it in, let it kind of toast up for a minute until you see it kind of cooking and a little bit of crisp going on there. Again, if your pot's looking a little dry and not enough oil, we'll use some Pam to let it crisp up. All right, my rosemary is sizzling and popping a little bit. We're gonna introduce the pumpkin now. You're gonna dump the entire can of pumpkin in. Just be careful, it has a higher water content, so as it hits the hot pan, it may sizzle for a minute. It should stop pretty quick though. A tank top's probably not the best option for cooking here. You wanna kind of mix in that rosemary, turn down the heat a little bit if you need to. You're gonna push the pumpkin to one side of the pan, and on the other side of the pan, we're gonna start toasting up a little bit of garlic. So we have our 2 garlic cloves chopped up here. We're gonna throw this in the opposite side just to let it sizzle up a little bit. While that garlic's cooking and the pumpkin's heating up, we're gonna measure out half a cup of our non-fat evaporated milk and set that aside for a moment. Once your garlic starts toasting up a little bit, you can blend it in with the rest of the pumpkin and rosemary. And let it all heat up and infuse the pumpkin. So my 9-minute timer just went off. I want to test the chickpea pasta to see if it's the right softness or firmness that I like. And 9 minutes was perfect for me. So now before I strain the pasta, I'm gonna save just like a half a cup of the water that we may introduce into the pumpkin sauce at the end, just to make sure we can get everything coated really well and keep that kind of salty sauce that we boiled the chickpea pasta in. So scoop out about that much water, set it to the side, and then strain the rest of your pasta. Pasta is strained, and now we want to dump in our evaporated milk into our pumpkin sauce and mix it up really well. Oh, it's looking good. Almost there. And let this cook for another minute or two to kind of thicken up. In the meantime, we're gonna weigh out 20 grams of our Parmesan cheese. This is where my handy dandy scale always comes in handy. If you're cooking without a scale or baking without a scale, you're really messing up. You should be using a scale often to weigh your food, track your food, stay on track. This is how we're able to eat foods that we love while still keeping on track, because we can manage our portion controls. So let's weigh out 20 grams here. Here's our 20 grams of cheese, and we're gonna dump that in as well. Let this baby thicken up. The final touch, a little salt and pepper. Like I said, this is unseasoned pumpkin, so you gotta season it. Should look something like that when you are done. Delicious, smells amazing, and it's gonna taste even better. Now, this is where the culmination of these 3 separate steps come together. We're gonna grab our pasta, and we are going to knock that into our saucepan and give it a nice stir and get everything covered evenly. So, oh yeah, check that out. Then we're gonna turn the heat on low, and we're gonna use that leftover little bit of liquid that we used from our boiling pasta to loosen that up a bit. Let it cook for a minute, and we're gonna toss in our turkey. Goes right in there. Let it get covered in that butternut squash sauce. And then we get to the fun part, the taste test. Let's do it. Okay, and now for the taste test. Let's see how she tastes. Took way too big of a bite. That is really good. The rosemary balances out the pumpkin really well. Not too sweet, not too salty. Make sure you do add enough salt and pepper though, because that can really throw out the recipe if you don't add enough salt and pepper. Gives it a nice balance with that salt, pepper, rosemary. I don't notice the difference by changing out half and half for the non-evaporated evaporated milk. I think the Parmesan cheese kind of really kicks through. I could see a little bit of, I know it's gonna sound strange, barbecue sauce kind of just layering the top of this, some low-calorie barbecue sauce. You can see some hot sauce going on top of this. Because honestly, I go by the saying, you could put that shit on everything. Try this, guys, while you're hanging out at home. This is a perfect fall recipe. And if you hadn't had the chance, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We're putting out awesome recipes just like this every single week, as well as home workouts you can do with minimal equipment, dumbbells, bands, body weight. Make sure you subscribe, hit the like button, turn on that notification bell. And if you haven't had the chance yet, I do a chickpea pasta, mac and cheese that everyone's been raving about. I'll leave a link to it over here. Have an awesome day, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.